Meri's fingers dig into the edge of the witness stand. The smooth, polished wood cool against her skin. Her heart is racing, as if it wants to break out of her chest. The courtroom is impossibly small, even though it's a grand chamber with high ceilings and rows of rigid benches. Every eye in the room seems to pierce through her, dissecting her resolve. Kody sits across from her, smooth outwardly, but she can see the slight trembling in his hand as he twists his wedding ring, the only visible indication of his nervousness. Tall, with an imposing demeanor, the judge peers over her glasses. The gavel falls once in a silent command. The echo reverberates across the walls. Ms. Brown, please state your testimony. Meri swallows hard and starts to speak in an almost hushed tone. I never wanted it to come to this, but I can't stay silent anymore. The truth has to come out. Christine sits stiffly, crossing her arms, and leans slightly forward. She has been quiet all morning, surveying each one. Her sharp gaze darts between Meri and Kody, weighing their words before they are spoken, almost calculating, what is she about to say, and how will it change everything? Robyn doesn't freak out, serene on the surface, a storm behind her eyes, her lips pressed tightly together. A moment, and she could have cried, but she didn't. Instead, she subtly shifted, catching her poise in a manner that silently declared she would take control of what was happening next. Before anyone else could, the air in this courtroom is almost suffocating, thick with tension. The faint scent of polished wood, paper, and nervous perfume hangs heavy. Every shuffle of paper or cough seemed amplified. Even the stenographer, customarily invisible, seemed to be caught in the charged atmosphere. The prosecutor rises, calm but firm. Your Honor, we are ready to present the DNA results. This evidence is crucial to understanding the scope of this case. The judge nods, and the clerk comes forward with the documents. Paper slides across the polished table, and it feels like the room collectively holds its breath. Kody looks down at them, feigning a casual scan, but his jaw tightens. Even from across the room, you can see the subtle shift in his expression, the micro-expressions that belie his panic. Meri takes another deep breath, centering herself. She stares right at the judge. These results, they confirm what I suspected, and I need everyone here to hear it from my mouth direct. Christine lets out a soft breath, her chest constricting with tension. She had always known that the cracks in the facade of this family existed, but the evidence stared her right in the face now. Every glance, every quiet reaction in the courtroom seemed to be a live wire that sparked. Janelle's hand trembled, ever so slightly as she placed it on the bench. She didn't want to show the fear that rose within her. Robyn's eyes narrow, all but imperceptibly. She leans into Kody, her voice inaudible, her face a mask of concern and calculation and fear. You can almost hear her inner voice. If this comes out wrong, everything falls apart. The judge opens the DNA report. Her eyes scan down the page rapidly. For a moment, her face does not change, and the room waits, silent, every second stretching unbearably. Then her eyebrows shoot up, ever so slightly, a flicker of shock that no one misses. Meri's swallow is audible as her throat dries. Kody is shifting uncomfortably, trying to cover up the panic rising in his chest. This can't be right, he says, his voice giving way to a quiver. Christine leans back in her chair, her mind racing. She has always suspected foul play, but nothing could have prepared her for the proof which stared at her now. Janelle's face has gone white, her fingers fidgeting at the edge of her sleeve. Even the judge, who has heard his fair share of cases, seems taken aback for a moment. The weight of the tangled secrets pressing down in the court. Meri steadies her voice and feels it grow stronger with each word. I've stayed silent for years. I've tried to protect everyone, but I can't protect lies. Not anymore. Her eyes sweep the room, resting on each person, as if to make them understand the magnitude of what she's saying. The air in the courtroom is heavier, the silence charged with anticipation. The prosecutor steps forward, leaning in slightly. Your Honor, these results are unequivocal. There is no dispute here. Kody's face pales further. The confident mask he wears cracks just enough for a flicker of fear to show. His fingers drum nervously on the bench, a subtle yet visible sign of unease. The children, seated quietly behind the adults, shift in their chairs. They sense the tension, the unspoken words that hang thickly between every adult present. Meri continues, her voice now firm, unwavering. I never imagined it would come to this, but hiding the truth has hurt all of us, more than the truth ever could. She pauses, scanning the room. Everyone deserves to know. The judge cocks her head to one side, first looking at Meri, then Kody, then Robyn. Ms. Brown, if you could explain the circumstances of these findings. Meri nods slowly. Yes, Your Honor. For years there have been whispers, small inconsistencies, moments that didn't add up. I tried to ignore them. I hoped I was wrong. But when I finally confronted Kody and Robyn privately, I realized the truth was worse than anything I could imagine. Christine leans forward, gripping her bench, eyes narrowing. She's ready to hear every detail, piece together the hidden puzzle that has been her family's fractured dynamics. Janelle's lips press into a thin line, tense and controlled, while every inch of her posture screams anxiety. Robyn, composed but poised, readjusts the position of her hands in her lap. Each gesture is considered and intentional. She's aware of the story unfolding and knows she needs to stay in control if she's going to contain the damage. Meri takes a deep breath, steadying herself against the rising tide of emotion. The results confirm something that I couldn't ignore any longer, something that changes everything, something that may never be undone. A murmur ripples through the courtroom. Even the stenographer pauses, catching the gravity in Meri's tone. The air vibrates with suspense. Every character, Kody, Robyn, Christine, Janelle, even the children, feels the shift. This is no longer speculation. The truth is tangible, undeniable, and devastating. Kody swallows audibly, attempting to maintain his composure. He shifts in his seat, eyes darting between Meri and the judge, searching for some reprieve that doesn't exist. Christine exhales slowly, her mind racing, connecting the dots she had only guessed at before. Janelle's hand grips the edge of her bench, knuckles white, as she braces herself for the revelations about to come. Meri steps back a little, her hand still holding the stand, and looks up at the judge with unwavering steadfastness in her eyes. Your Honor, I'm ready to explain everything, from the very beginning, so there is no doubt left. The judge nods to continue, and the room collectively leans forward. Every heartbeat is heard, every whisper of anticipation louder. The faint scratching of pens, the soft rustle of papers, even the subtler intake of breath by the audience, all becomes magnified in the charged silence. The clerk now introduces another piece of evidence, sliding it across the table, and with that, the room seems to hold its collective breath as one. The tension is almost unbearable. What this document contains will either shatter the room entirely or offer the first glimmer of clarity in a story long buried beneath layers of secrecy. The weight in the courtroom is heavier now, the air thick with anticipation. Every eye watches Meri, while Kody appears to shrink under the weight of the scrutiny. Robyn sits beside him, her serene mask barely disguising the storm behind her calm eyes. The DNA results, once just papers on a table, have now become the weapon that could unravel everything. The prosecutor leans forward, his tone deliberate. Ms. Brown, please repeat what led to this discovery. We need the whole story. Meri nods, and her fingers brush the edge of the stand. It started months ago, she begins, her voice steady but laced with emotion. I noticed little things, changes in behavior, things that didn't add up. I tried to dismiss them. I really did. But the doubts kept growing. Christine leans forward, her sharp eyes fixed on Kody. Every slight movement from him is felt tenfold in her line of vision. She can see the tension in his jaw, the low, barely controlled jerk of his hand. He knows she's piecing it together, Christine thinks. He can't hide forever. Meri continues, voice growing firmer. I confronted Kody in private, wanting him to be forthcoming with me. But instead of clarity, I was met with excuses and half-truths. I knew I had to go further. That's when I arranged for the testing, and what it revealed changed everything. Robyn's hands not in her lap, and she shifts marginally, her head turning to Kody. His eyes flicker with panic. Meri, this isn't necessary, Robyn whispers, though her voice is barely audible. Her calm tone can't mask the fear underlying it. Kody's face is ashen now, the first cracks in his composure unmistakable. Meri, please, we can handle this privately, he mutters. But his voice carries no weight. The courtroom seems to amplify every whispered plea, every fidgety reaction between them. Meri swallows, her eyes locking on Kody's. Too much has been hidden, Kody. Too many lies. This isn't about blame anymore. It's about the truth. The prosecutor shifts and lays another document on the table. We also have testimony from several witnesses who observed the inconsistencies over the years. Ms. Brown, please describe what they revealed. Meri nods, recounting what she had learned from private conversations and confessions that she had collected over time. People notice things. Small, seemingly insignificant details. But combined, they painted a clear picture. My heart sank when I realized it was true. Christine leans back, exhaling slowly. She's piecing it together, connecting past events with the shocking evidence now presented. Janelle's hands are on the edge of her seat as tension radiates from every line in her body. Every member of the family feels the invisible chains of secrecy slipping away, leaving raw, exposed nerves in their wake. Kody's eyes dart nervously from Meri to the judge. He is desperate, but he can feel the weight of truth pressing down. I didn't expect this, he mutters, barely audible. Robyn gives him a quick glance, her expression unreadable but sharp, almost calculating. Meri's voice rises, steady and unwavering. Your Honor, I never wanted this confrontation. I wanted to protect everyone, to keep the family intact. But lies, they have a way of destroying everything silently. And now the truth must be spoken. For all our sakes. The judge leans forward slightly, her expression a mixture of stern curiosity and incredulity. Ms. Brown, this is serious. Please proceed carefully, but tell us everything. Meri takes a breath, composing herself. She recalls the conversations, the moments of doubt, and the nights spent wrestling with whether or not to speak out. Every time I thought about staying quiet, I realized that silence wasn't protecting anyone. It was enabling deception. I couldn't do it anymore. Christine shifts, her eyes narrowing. She remembers the subtle hints she'd overlooked for years. Now, in this courtroom, the pieces fit together like a puzzle she never wanted to complete. Janelle bites her lip, anxiety radiating from her in waves. Even the children, seated quietly in the back, seem to sense the tension, their small hands clenching the edge of their chairs. The prosecutor introduces another witness, a longtime friend of the family. Their testimony is careful, but damning. I noticed several times that things didn't match. The witness says, there were inconsistencies. Stories changed. Moments didn't add up. I knew something was being hidden. Meri nods, her eyes glistening. Exactly. And when I finally got the DNA results, it confirmed everything I feared. It wasn't just the little inconsistencies. It was a web of secrets. Robyn shifts uncomfortably. Her exterior is composed, but her hands are tense, and a slight twitch mars her jaw. Kody's attempt to intervene is weak. We can explain this, he stammers, voice faltering. Christine leans forward, her voice razor sharp. Explain. Kody, for years these lies cost us everything. You really think an explanation is going to suffice? Meri swallows, her voice trembling just slightly, but her determination is unwavering. I tried to be patient, to wait for honesty, but it never came. The truth must be known now, even if it hurts everyone involved. The air in the courtroom is electric with anticipation. Every movement, every glance carries weight. The children move restlessly, sensing the tension but not really understanding. The adults are caught in a storm of emotions: anger, betrayal, fear, and that fragile hope that finally, honesty would bring clarification. The judge looked over her glasses, eyes scanning the room. Ms. Brown, if there is additional evidence, please present it now. Meri nods and reaches for the next document. It's a letter, one she had hesitated to submit, fearing the fallout. This, she says, holding it carefully, is a confession that corroborates everything. It's painful, but necessary for the court to understand the full truth. Christine's eyes widen. Janelle leans forward, holding her breath. Kody's face tightens, and Robyn's serene facade falters for a fraction of a second. The courtroom seems to hold its collective breath. Meri continues, recounting the words in the letter, each phrase cutting deeper into the web of lies. It confirms suspicions, reveals hidden truths, and finally lets the family and the court see what's really been happening behind closed doors. The judge takes a minute, perusing the document in depth. A deafening silence falls. All eyes in the room are on Kody and Robyn, and everyone is waiting for their reaction. The children fidget, understanding the weight of what's just been said. Kody forces out the words in a low, strained voice. I didn't think it would come to this. His eyes don't leave the ground. They can't rise to meet Meri's. Robyn looks over at him with an unreadable expression, though the slight shake in her hands belies the calm she tries to show. Meri exhales slowly, undeterred. The truth isn't easy, but it's the only thing that can finally set us free. The clerk proceeds with one last piece of evidence. A folder, which had been overlooked, contains testimony by an unexpected witness. A person whose words can totally alter the balance of the case. Each family member stiffens, sensing the storm about to break. Meri's eyes sweep through the folder before she turns to the judge. This will show the connections that have been kept secret for years, and it will explain why certain actions were taken, and why they've been so carefully hidden. The courtroom is on edge. The judge leans forward, interest piqued. Christine clutches the bench, eyes wide, nerves on high alert. Janelle's breaths turn shallow. Kody looks at Meri, desperation flashing briefly before he forces composure. Robyn's lips press into a thin line as she knows control is slipping away. Meri starts reading the contents in a measured tone, with each word falling like a hammer. Every revelation adds layers to the drama, deepens the tension, and the stakes get impossibly high. The courtroom is silent, but for the soft rustling of pages, which are amplified by the stillness. The tension seems to have shrunk the courtroom down. Every heartbeat is loud. Every whisper seems amplified. Meri's testimony has already shaken the foundation of the family. But what's next will shatter them entirely. The judge's gaze is sharp, direct, as if daring anybody to flinch under the truth. Kody shifts uncomfortably in his seat, his eyes welling up as he tries to compose himself. His hands fidget with the ring, twisting it so that the metal gnaws at his skin. Robyn sits beside him, calm on the surface, but her eyes betray her anxiety as she glances at Kody, almost pleading, a subtle whisper of "hold it together" passing between them. The prosecutor stands, his voice deliberate, holding up a new document. Your Honor, we have additional testimony from witnesses who have long observed irregularities and inconsistencies in the family's accounts. Their statements corroborate Ms. Brown's claims. Meri leans slightly forward, her hands gripping the edge of the witness stand. Her voice is steady, but there's an underlying tremor, raw emotion barely restrained. These are people I trusted, people who saw things I couldn't ignore. Their observations confirmed my suspicions. Christine lets out a sharp exhale. She's been quiet all morning, studying, calculating, waiting for this exact moment. Finally, she says under her breath, her eyes narrowing at Kody. The truth is coming. Robyn looks over at her husband and raises an eyebrow. She purses her lips, fighting off the reaction sure to come. Kody's face goes white as he swallows hard. This isn't how it was supposed to unfold, he mutters, under his breath. Almost to himself, Meri continues, her voice rising slightly, commanding the room's attention. For years we've lived with half-truths and hidden realities. Secrets that were meant to protect us ended up hurting us more than any confrontation ever could. The evidence today isn't about punishment. It's about clarity, about finally seeing the truth. The judge leans forward slightly, eyes sharp. Ms. Brown, please continue. The court needs every detail. Meri inhales deeply, the weight of each word heavier as she speaks them. There were moments, small things, which didn't make sense, conversations that were cut short, explanations that were vague or contradictory. At first, I brushed them aside, hoping I was only imagining things, but the discrepancies grew impossible to ignore. Christine bends forward, her hands clamped onto the seat. She's connecting the dots now, every subtle hint that she had dismissed, suddenly forming a coherent, undeniable pattern. Janelle shifts beside her, the grip on her knees tight. Even the children, sensitive to the tension emanating from the adults, lean forward slightly, unsure what's unfolding, but aware it's monumental. Robyn fidgets and subtly tugs at her sleeve. Her calm facade is cracking under the intensity of Meri's words. Kody's jaw tightens, and a vein threatens to throb visibly on his temple. The courtroom seems to vibrate with the collective tension of every breath, synchronized with the unspoken fear in the room. Meri's voice grows stronger, steadier, fueled by the clarity brought by truth. I finally confronted Kody directly. I asked for honesty, for clarity. Instead, I was met with avoidance, partial truths, and when I needed answers the most, with silence. That's when I knew the situation could no longer remain private. The prosecutor steps forward, holding another document aloft. Your Honor, we also have a detailed account from a family confidant, someone with direct insight into the situation over the years. Meri nods, taking up the narrative again. This person watched patterns, small events, that when taken together, created a clear picture of deception. They watched relationships shift, secrets deepen, and the family fracture under the weight of things unsaid. Christine's eyes narrow, her lips set in a tight line. She's always been the observer, the one who notices details that others overlook. Now, those details are connecting in a way she never expected. Janelle's hands are trembling slightly, and even Kody shifts uncomfortably in his seat. Robyn, too, loses a little of her calm, with the slight shake of her hands revealing tension beneath her poised exterior. Meri continues to relate what the confidant had noticed. There were times of secrecy, deliberate omissions, and manipulations that I had tried to overlook. But now, with evidence and witness statements, the full scope of what was happening cannot be denied. The judge nods slowly, her expression grave. This is serious. Ms. Brown, please explain how these patterns impacted family dynamics and led to the current situation. Meri swallows, her voice not even breaking. The secrets, the half-truths, they have caused tension, mistrust, and confusion. The family is fractured, not from any accidents, but from choices made in the silence, from actions taken without clarity. And the consequences, There is no denying them now. Kody finally speaks, his voice low and strained. "Meri, we can work through this. Please." But his words ring hollow, even to his own ears. Robyn places a hand on his arm, a silent attempt to regain control, but the gesture only underscores the fragility of their situation. Christine leans forward, an icy tone to her voice. "Work through it? Kody, the lies have been here for years. You really believe a few explanations can wipe out all of this?" Meri's eyes glitter as she continues. The witnesses confirm patterns that cannot be ignored. Every attempt at deception, every omission, every avoidance, it all adds up. It's not about mistakes anymore. It's about responsibility and truth. The courtroom is on edge, with every eye glued to the witness stand. The prosecutor lays a new piece of evidence on the table, a folder full of communications that reveal further deception. The room falls silent, the anticipation almost unbearable. Meri cautiously opens the folder, her fingers brushing the documents. This shows attempts at manipulating situations, creating non-existent scenarios, and concealing the truth even when it could no longer remain hidden. Robyn shifts, visibly uncomfortable. Kody's face whitens as the cracks in his composure widen. Christine leans forward, eyes wide, drinking in the weight of the revelations. Janelle holds her hands tightly clasped together, knuckles white, as if bracing for impact. Meri takes a deep breath, her voice clear and steady. "The documents confirm all I had feared. They illustrate the web of deceit and conscious decisions made to hide the truth. The family, the court, and all concerned have a right to the whole story." The judge looks through the papers, a grim expression on her face. "Ms. Brown, this is serious. The court will take these revelations into consideration. Continue your testimony with the direct impacts to the family." Meri swallows, and her eyes flicker across the faces before her. The impacts are profound. Trust has been broken, relationships strained, and everyone, children included, affected by decisions made without transparency. The emotional toll is massive, and it cannot be turned back with words. Christine exhales almost in spurts as she clutches the edge of her seat. She had watched how each piece fit into that picture, but it became a bit more devastating than she had ever imagined. Janelle's hands shake slightly. Kody is forward, trying to hold on to some semblance of command, but his voice has a traitorous quiver in it. Robyn's cool facade cracks, her eyes darting frantically. Meri reaches the final piece of her testimony, the part that she has dreaded but knew was necessary. "Your Honor, this final document confirms actions taken in secret, decisions that affected every member of this family, and it is why we are here today, to confront what has been hidden for so long." The courtroom is silent, every person holding their breath. The weight of decades of secrecy, deception, and avoidance hangs heavy. Every glance, every subtle shift, is magnified in the intensity of the moment. The courtroom is electric, charged with tension that's almost palpable. All eyes are on Kody as he stands, shaking slightly. All pretenses of calm shed. Robyn sits beside him, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, face pale, her usual composed demeanor cracking under the weight of the mounting evidence. Meri straightens in the witness stand, voice calm but sharp. "Your Honor, this is not about evidence alone. It's about choices made in secrecy, decisions that affected each and every member of this family, and the consequences of keeping the truth hidden for so many years." Christine bends forwards, fists pressed together on the bench, eyes riveted to Kody, always analytical, always the one to catch the stray discrepancy that others miss. But now, all the evidence laid bare, her mind is racing through years of insinuations and moments that never quite fit. All the signs were there, and now they just cannot be denied. The judge nods slowly, her eyes piercing. "Ms. Brown, proceed carefully. The court is ready for the full account. Meri breathes out and starts collecting her thoughts. I have tried to protect this family, to keep them from hurt, but the silence allowed lies to grow unchecked. Every lie, every omission, every unspoken truth has consequences. Kody fidgets uncomfortably in his seat, his eyes darting around the room. He knows the walls are closing in. Meri, you just don't understand. I had reasons, he mutters, his voice shaking. Robyn leans slightly toward him, whispering under her breath, "We can fix this." But the words ring without conviction. She knows the damage is deep, perhaps irreparable. Meri's voice is straightforward, firm, almost cutting like a knife through the tension. The evidence is undeniable. Witnesses, documents, and even confessions reveal the truth that has been hidden far too long. The family, everyone here, deserves to hear it fully, without omission or distortion. The prosecutor steps forward, holding up a folder. Your Honor, this contains communications, private notes, and messages that directly contradict earlier statements made by the defendants. They highlight deliberate actions, taken to obscure the truth. Meri takes a deep breath. This folder, it confirms what I've known in my heart for years. Secrets meant to protect us, that ended up hurting everyone involved. And the truth must come out, no matter the discomfort or fallout. Christine leans forward, her jaw tightened as her eyes narrow. Kody Robyn, how could you allow this to go on for so long? The damage isn't just legal in nature. It's personal, emotional, and permanent. Kody's hand shakes slightly, his composure slipping. It wasn't supposed to hurt anyone, he says softly, almost pleading. I never wanted this to happen. Robyn's lips clench tightly. She looks at him, her eyes showing traces of fear, and at the same time calculation that the next moments might decide their fate. Meri's voice softens slightly now, tinging with a sadness that doesn't waver. The truth is painful, yes, but hiding it has caused more harm than honesty ever could. This isn't about blame. It's about clarity and accountability. The judge leans forward, her voice steady. Ms. Brown, please bring in the final pieces of evidence that will make the complete case clear. Meri opens the folder carefully, her fingers brushing the documents as though she's handling fragile glass. These documents show actions, decisions, and manipulations that were hidden for years. They show patterns of deception, choices made in secrecy, and the ripple effects that reached everyone in this family. Christine's eyes widen as she reads parts of the documents herself. She leans closer, taking in every detail and connecting it with past incidents and discrepancies she had previously questioned but never understood fully. Janelle's hands slightly tremble. She bites her lip to hold back a sigh, tension coursing through her like electricity. Kody shifts uncomfortably, looking over at Robyn. He knows how the documents could dismantle the facade he has so carefully clung to for all these years. Robyn's calm exterior is now just a mask, fragile and breaking under the weight of the truth. Meri reads on, her voice clear, continuing with, the letters, messages, and witness statements confirm what has been suspected, but never openly admitted. The web of deception has been extensive and deliberate. The courtroom is silent, heavy with the gravitas of the revelation. Quiet children sense the tension and fidget uncomfortably in their seats. Even the judge takes a minute, having looked carefully at the evidence, her eyes revealing the depth of her responsibility at this moment. Meri looks to Kody, a hint of controlled emotion in her voice. Kody Robyn, the court deserves to hear the truth, and so do the children. What has been hidden cannot remain hidden any longer. Kody lets out a shaky exhale. I didn't know how to handle it, he mutters, his eyes darting around the room. I thought I was protecting everyone. Robyn leans slightly forward, her voice soft. We made mistakes. I never meant for it to come to this, she admits, showing the first cracks in her facade openly. Christine sharply exhales, her voice shaking in anger and pain. Mistakes? You refer to years of deception as mistakes? Manipulating people's lives, their trusts, and hearts. Meri's voice rises, commanding attention. This isn't about blame anymore. It's about accountability. It's about finally facing the consequences of choices made in secrecy. The judge motions for silence, her gavel lightly tapping. The court is conscious of the weight these confessions carry. Ms. Brown, please continue with any final statements regarding the impact on the family. Meri closes her eyes momentarily, collecting strength. The emotional toll has been immense. Trust has been broken, bonds strained, and relationships left fragile. But honesty, as painful as it may be, is the only path toward healing. We cannot undo the past, but we can choose to confront it. The prosecutor places one last piece of evidence on the table. A set of personal letters revealing intentions, fears, and manipulations no one had expected to see. The room falls completely silent. Even the air seems to hold its breath. Meri picks up the letters, her hands firm even as her chest quivers. These letters show the decisions made behind closed doors, the choices that have defined this family, and the repercussions of acting in secret. The court should know, and all of you deserve to know it too. Christine narrows her eyes to read the letters herself. She leans forward, the emotional weight of each revelation upon her. Janelle digs her fingers into the seat, her knuckles white as she realizes the depth of what has been hidden. Kody's face pales, and Robyn's lips press tightly together. For the first time, her calm is utterly fractured. Meri reads aloud, each word deliberate, each revelation cutting deeper. These letters confirm it all: the patterns of deception, the moments of betrayal, the choices made that impacted everyone involved. The truth can no longer be avoided. The courtroom is tense. Every person in the room holds their breath. The judge looks through the letters, nodding very slowly. Serious indeed. The court recognizes the depth of these revelations and the impact on all parties involved. Abruptly, Kody rises, eyes wide, his voice trembling with desperation and anger. You don't understand. There's more. I didn't know how to stop it. The words hang in the air like a thunderclap. The courtroom freezes, every eye on him. Meri swallows, holding herself steady. Robyn's hands tighten in her lap. Christine sits up straight, eyes sharp, heart racing. Janelle exhales a slow breath, bracing herself. The children shift, their tension like a weight that presses down on them. The room waits, silent and strained, knowing that the next few moments could redefine everything: trust, family, and the fragile bonds that have been pushed to their breaking point. Time appears to stand still within the courtroom. Silently, the tension is overwhelming, almost to the point of asphyxiation. All eyes are on Kody, who now sits rigidly, his composure shattered. Robyn's calm facade is gone. Raw anxiety twists her hands in her lap. The children watch quietly from their chairs, their faces pale and apprehensive with a sense of the weightiness that is before them. Meri steps forward again, calm and authoritative. Your Honor, these revelations are painful, yes, but they are necessary. The truth has consequences, and we must face them if we are to move forward. Robyn leans forward, her voice soft, almost pleading. We tried, we truly did, but secrecy never leads to healing. I see that now. Her eyes flicker toward Meri, a subtle acknowledgement of the truth she had resisted for so long. Christine cuts in, her voice sharp, laced with pain. Tried? Kody, Robyn, years and years of deceit were kept from us. Trust was broken, relationships were strained, and feelings were manipulated. You can't just explain this away. Meri steps forward again, her voice calm, but full of authority. Your Honor, These revelations are painful, yes, but they are necessary. The truth has consequences, and we must face them if we are to move forward. Christine leans forward, her sharp gaze fixed on Kody. She is a storm contained, anger and betrayal, mixing with the fragile hope that this honesty might finally bring clarity. Janelle shifts slightly, gripping the edge of her chair as if ready to brace herself for impact, her mind reeling to comprehend the full scope of what has been revealed. Kody exhales shakily, his eyes cast down. I didn't mean for any of this. I thought I was protecting everyone, but I realize now I just made things worse. His voice starts to crack, and for the first time, vulnerability replaces defensiveness. Christine interrupts, her voice sharp, laced with hurt. Tried, Kody, Robyn, years of deception kept from us. The trust has been broken, relationships have been strained, and emotions manipulated. You can't just explain this away. Meri nods, her gaze sweeping the courtroom. Exactly. And now, everyone must acknowledge the impact. The children, the family members, the friends. They all deserve honesty and transparency moving forward. The judge leans forward slightly. Given these revelations and admissions, the court must consider the emotional and relational implications carefully. Ms. Brown, please address any final pieces of evidence or statements that are crucial for understanding the full scope of the situation. Meri's eyes sweep the room, resting briefly on each member of the family. The final documents, letters, and testimonies confirm the patterns, the secrecy, and the choices that led us here. The evidence is undeniable. The court and the family must now face this truth fully, openly, and with the willingness to act with integrity. Christine lets out a sharp exhalation, and her voice shakes slightly. Integrity? It's a word more easily said than lived. Kody, Robyn, can you truly embrace it now? Robyn's eyes shine. I can too. I see now that hiding only caused more pain. Christine leans back a bit, the tension easing, but her eyes stay sharp. The truth is out. There's no going back. Now it's about how we navigate the fallout. Robyn reaches out briefly and touches his arm. We will try. It won't be easy, but honesty is the only way forward. The judge now looks around and speaks in a measured voice. The court recognizes that emotional and familial consequences are ongoing. The testimony and evidence presented today will remain on record, guiding future proceedings and decisions. Christine exhales, her face a mix of anger, sadness, and cautious hope. This changes everything, she whispers under her breath. All parties have been honest with the court, he says, and the court is aware of how much courage that takes. We are finished here today, but it does not end the emotional journey. Meri exhales, feeling a mix of release with still some remnants of sadness. Christine, Janelle, Kody, and Robyn all sit in reflective silence, knowing the fallout won't be immediate, but the foundation for truth has finally been laid.